4 years, 2 months in prison.
Wow.
He served a year. He gets some time. He gets 15% credit, so he'd be at 14-ish.
2.5 years.
2 months.
So, and then he gets another 15% in the remaining.
Yeah.
He's out in 2 years.
Yeah. Should have stuck with the original guess.
I know.
Yeah.
Sean Diddy Combs walked into a federal courtroom facing 11 years for trafficking and walked out with just over 4. The judge called his crimes disgusting, but the sentence screamed one thing: someone made sure he wouldn't stay locked up long. There it is. After months of headline-choking scandal, a jury found Combs guilty on 2 counts under the Mann Act. That's 50 months behind bars, barely more than 4 years. He gets credit for the 13 months he's already been in MDC Brooklyn. The $500,000 fine sounds harsh until we remember this is a man whose net worth once rivaled that of entire Fortune 500 companies. For Diddy, that's a weekend's worth of sparkling drinks. Judge Arun Subramanian didn't mince words either. You had the money and the power to keep it going. It's rare to see a federal judge get this blunt, but the real headline is what didn't happen. Prosecutors came in hot, demanding more than a decade, fueled by graphic testimony, Cassie Ventura's stories of so-called freak-offs, the infamous blackmail videos, and let's not forget the 1,000 bottles of lube hauled out of Diddy's homes during that Miami-LA raid. Subramanian slammed the gavel, but the punishment? Underwhelming.
The data shows a wide variety of sentences. Weighing all the relevant factors, the court determines that the sentence is 50 months of incarceration.
50.
4 years.
4 years.
5-0.
4 years, 2 months.
2 months.
Yep. Wow.
50 months.
Let's be honest, this was supposed to be the trial that set an example, not handed out a lesson in loopholes. Ventura's time on the stand had already gone viral before the sentence even dropped. She didn't just recount her personal tragedy, she brought receipts. Freak-off parties, being forced into acts she never agreed to, cameras everywhere, threats of leaked videos if she talked. Prosecutors made it clear this wasn't just a celebrity gone wild, it was a calculated operation with blackmail as the backup plan. They brought out emails, testimony, and even a few former employees. The phrase, 1,000 bottles of lube, trended for 3 days. And then the defense swung back, arguing Diddy wasn't a pimp because he didn't profit, as if you need to sell tickets to exploit someone. The money, they said, was incidental. They painted him as a broken man, a cautionary tale. Never mind the decades of alleged control, intimidation, and damage. This is where reality turns to theater, because by the time the dust settled, Diddy got the maximum fine, a fraction of his net worth, and the minimum sentence the law could possibly stomach without losing face. Outside the courthouse, reactions split right down the middle. Activists for survivors' rights called the verdict a joke. Online, the hashtags about leniency, privilege, and a 2-tier system shot up the charts. Meanwhile, industry insiders started whispering about the real reason Combs dodged anything resembling real time. The judge gave him the warning, sure, but warnings are for people who think the rules actually apply. Diddy's entire career has been about rewriting those rules in real time. We all remember the revolving door of settlements, the NDAs, the stories that never got their day in court. The system, critics say, did what it always does when money and influence get in the room. It blinked.
There was a lot of stuff that came out in the trial that the judge knew about it, so the judge couldn't just let him walk out of there with nothing. But the judge and them, listen here, bro. The judge and them gave him, well, not gave him, but let him off.
The biggest twist is where Diddy is serving his sentence. MDC Brooklyn has been described by lawyers and survivors alike as hell on earth. This is where R. Kelly and Ghislaine Maxwell prep for trial, where staff shortages and overcrowding turn routine into chaos. We're talking about a place where inmates have ended up on slabs after brawls and meals are sometimes maggot-infested, beans and potatoes crawling with what the defense calls weevils, and the Bureau of Prisons calls a rare vendor issue. Thanksgiving dinner here is a PB&J for those not lucky enough to get the roast turkey lunch. But don't get the wrong idea. While the building may look like punishment, Diddy's living situation sounds more like a halfway house for disgraced billionaires than an iron cage. His new address is 4 North, a dorm-style wing with about 20 high-profile inmates, all protected from the general population and each other. Air hockey tables, gym time, communal bathrooms with, yes, real showers and privacy curtains. Board games, tablets in the commissary. One former attorney described it like this: while other inmates fight for scraps, Diddy's playing board games, literally. You'd think after years of LA mansions and private jets, waking up on a steel bunk with no pillow would be torture, but for most people in MDC, that would count as luxury.
Bankman Fried were in the unit that was 1 floor above mine. So in terms of like the setting, it's a fairly decent chance that the room I'm describing is similar to where Diddy is. Yeah.
From
Here's where the rumors start accelerating. Sources close to the Combs legal team are already talking about a transfer. We're hearing negotiations are underway to move him out of Brooklyn's notorious federal lockup and into a much softer, low-security facility in New Jersey. They're not doing it for the scenery. At these lower security club feds, good behavior can cut your time dramatically. Insiders say under a year isn't out of the question, especially if you know the right people and play by the unwritten rules. That means Combs could go from 11 years to maybe 18 months, with time served and credits, all before the public's even had a chance to process what actually went down in that courtroom. The legal fallout isn't even close to over. His team is prepping an appeal. Industry contacts tell us he's already plotting how to rehabilitate his image, floating a comeback narrative built around recovery and family. But for the people who testified and the ones who never got their day in court, this is a warning shot fired in the wrong direction. It's not just about Diddy, though. When a case this ugly lands a sentence this light, every co-conspirator starts taking notes. Insiders are saying several former associates are already scrambling for immunity deals. The FBI hasn't commented officially, but there are whispers, strong ones, that a few bad boy employees and party regulars have been quietly cutting deals, trading evidence for protection. It raises the ugly possibility that the prosecution never intended to take down the entire operation. Why do the heavy lifting when one guilty plea, a quick sentence, and some maximum fine window dressing will do? If that sounds cynical, welcome to the world of white-collar criminal justice. We've seen it before. The FBI swoops in, the headlines write themselves, and then the reality of influence and legal leverage starts to warp the process. If there are immunity deals in play, and sources close to the investigation say there are, then the next logical question is who gets thrown under the bus, and who gets to keep their reputation intact. Some industry sources even claim there's pressure from political donors to make this all go away before election season, with rumors swirling about a possible pardon from Donald Trump. Yes, that's actually on the table, as insiders close to the former president have floated trial balloons in the conservative press. The stakes are about to get even messier.
Twofer from your president? How about a little Ghislaine, a little Diddy? A little Ghislaine, a little Diddy, or sorry, Puffy. Yes, President Trump was asked about both of those people. This is the twofer. One,
Those people?
yeah, Ghislaine Maxwell and Puffy.
That was an inside joke.
None of this happens in a vacuum. The celebrity power structure is on edge, and we're seeing cracks appear in real time. It's not just about Diddy's future. It's about who might get pulled in next. When King Combs was spotted outside his father's LA mansion wearing sweatpants with an Illuminati logo the day after federal agents raided the properties, the internet lost its mind. Industry insiders are divided. Is it an act of defiance, a stunt for attention, or something a little darker? As the old conspiracy theories bubble back up, Jay-Z and Beyoncé's names are getting dragged in by bloggers and former insiders who claim to know exactly which exclusive parties were off the books. With Diddy out of the picture, at least for now, all eyes turn to the next domino. In the comment sections, fans and trolls alike are asking if more subpoenas are on the way, if the net is about to widen, or if this is where it quietly ends for the rich and powerful. Jay-Z's attempts to scrub his Twitter history haven't gone unnoticed by digital sleuths, and Beyoncé's fans are flooding her social media with questions about what she knew and when. Meanwhile, back at MDC Brooklyn, not everyone is impressed by Diddy's new reality. Sources inside the unit say his star has already started to fade, thanks in part to the presence of a much more notorious inmate, Luigi Mangione, accused in the United Healthcare executive tragedy, who, according to the New York Post, is drawing more attention than Diddy ever did. The man who once commanded every room in Hollywood is now reportedly throwing tantrums because someone else is stealing the spotlight. It's not a good look, especially when his legal team has spent months arguing that he's remorseful, changed, and inspired other inmates with his jailhouse attitude. The transformation, some say, is mostly cosmetic. He's visibly thinner, grayer, and according to courtroom witnesses, almost unrecognizable compared to the man who once ran bad boy records like a personal empire. Is that what accountability looks like? Or just the inevitable wear and tear of someone who spent the last year sleeping on steel bunks and eating food you wouldn't serve your worst enemy?
Concussion. And so I'm coming down with the concussion, the drugs, my brain really not working well. They assigned me a bunk, top bunk, center of the room, right under these fluorescent lights. And that little tiny strip was my only bit of like turf in the world. I had a little locker off to the side, but that bunk under the fluorescents in the middle of that room, sound coming up everywhere.
But that's not the only contradiction we're tracking. While Diddy is playing board games and getting FaceTime with lawyers in a private conference room, other inmates at MDC are still hoarding bread to avoid eating the potatoes, reportedly overwatered and made from powder, with the ever-present threat of unwanted critters lurking in the beans. Last year, 1,600 inmates split a $10 million settlement from the Bureau of Prisons after a power outage left them freezing and neglected for days. The feds say the food's safe, but defense attorneys keep sounding the alarm about conditions that would make most people rethink their definition of punishment. Still, Diddy's experience is uniquely privileged. We've learned he's allowed regular attorney visits, unfettered access to case files, and phone calls that, according to prosecutors, sometimes bend the rules. There's a pattern here. The perks of fame don't vanish behind bars, they just get new packaging. The public backlash is gathering momentum, too. Activists, commentators, and even some former music industry peers are openly calling out what they see as the celebrity discount. On social media, the split is growing between those who see Diddy as a casualty of his own hubris and those convinced he's just the latest star to dodge real accountability. The networks, for their part, are riding the wave. Peacock's Diddy, The Making of a Bad Boy documentary is trending, and streaming numbers spike every time a new revelation breaks. The market for redemption stories is always open, but it's a harder sell when the receipts keep piling up and the questions don't go away. We've heard through industry publicists and ex-associates that there's already talk of exclusive interviews, sit-down specials, maybe even a tell-all book. But the real action is still behind the scenes, where lawyers, political strategists, and law enforcement insiders are playing a game with the stakes set impossibly high.
Did he? Or didn't he? Well, if he didn't, he's got a lot to explain. Well, apparently what Diddy's done now, which is a very interesting thing, is he's on the offensive of sorts. That's right, Sean Diddy Combs has initiated a $100 million defamation lawsuit.
Because when a man with Diddy's connections is facing real prison time, the story doesn't end with a single sentencing. Sources say the clock is ticking on a wider investigation that could touch on everything from hush money payoffs to possible ties between entertainment executives and political donors, some of whom have reportedly been pushing for a discreet resolution. Insiders familiar with the ongoing federal probe claim that immunity deals are already changing hands, and the next round of subpoenas could target names the public hasn't even begun to suspect. No one wants to go on record, but the message is clear. The fallout from this case is only just beginning, and with every new headline, every leak, every cryptic social media post from those who used to orbit Diddy's world, the sense grows that the story is nowhere near done unraveling. The judge called this a warning, but warnings are for people who think the rules apply to them, and Diddy's never played by those.
Dishonest, violent, horrible. A promiscuous swinger who lied to and cheated on multiple partners. Incredibly, that's how Sean Diddy Combs' own lawyers describe the billionaire music mogul, currently facing serious trafficking charges in a New York court.
Here's what the sentencing didn't tell you. Diddy's legal team didn't just fight the charges, they rewrote the story. If you watched the courtroom, you could see the game plan unfolding in real time. Step 1 was reputation rehab, pure and simple. His lawyers presented Diddy as the ultimate phoenix, humbled, thinner, even grayer, but now supposedly a model inmate, inspiring others to stay clean and focused. They had a parade of character witnesses from inside the detention center, all eager to describe a changed man. The bad boy narrative was out. The born-again angle was in. Next came the emotional leverage. Charity donations, mentorship, and of course, the shadow of untreated trauma. We've heard it all before, but this time they leaned into it like it was their golden ticket. The subtext was clear. Maybe Diddy didn't just make bad choices, maybe he was a product of pain himself. Add in the montage of his past good deeds, and suddenly we're supposed to see a deeply flawed human trying to do better, not just another celebrity running from accountability. But the pièce de résistance was the legal maneuvering itself, arguing that the Mann Act convictions were just a misunderstanding of lifestyle. His own lawyer said it out loud. He's a swinger, not a predator. According to them, everything was consensual, everything was adult. And if money changed hands, well, that was just the way the world works in those circles. We can practically hear the eye rolls from anyone who watched Ventura or Jane's testimony.
It has to be the defense, the consent, because look, sometimes you can argue that the activity never happened, right? You know, it wasn't me, defense. But this is not your typical assault case. There are a lot of people there, right? There are people that are arranging the workers. There are people that are setting up lights and cameras, booking hotel rooms. Obviously, Diddy has a large entourage.
This is where the contradiction kicks the air out of the room. The same man who allegedly beat Cassie Ventura so badly she feared for her life is now positioned as a victim of excess. One minute, we're hearing about blackmail tapes, threats, and brutal confrontations. The next, Diddy's legal team is painting him as a cautionary tale of success gone too far. The story shifted so hard, it left whiplash. It was all leading to one thing, the transfer request. Just days after sentencing, paperwork surfaced, leaked, naturally, showing Diddy's legal team asking for a move to a federal facility with a rehabilitation program. If that sounds suspiciously like a backdoor to early release, that's because it is. Sources familiar with federal procedure say these transfers often result in lighter treatment, more lenient oversight, and a clear shot at shaving months or even years off a sentence, all under the guise of redemption. But if we're really following the breadcrumbs, the most important question isn't about how Diddy might leave prison, it's about who kept him so safe from the start. For weeks, the buzz behind closed doors was about the so-called immunity deals. His longtime second-in-command, Christina Carrorum, was never charged, despite the documentary on Peacock calling her a key architect in what they labeled his criminal enterprise. Several former Bad Boy employees are missing from any formal indictment. According to 2 insiders close to the investigation, several core associates were granted immunity in exchange for cooperation. The public doesn't see the strings being pulled, but everyone in the legal world knows these moves aren't accidental.
That he has, with others, and just because no one else has been charged, which normally in a RICO case you would have others charged, it was a statute that designed to get mob bosses, trying to get at criminal behavior that's like a web of criminal behavior that you can't necessarily prove, like the one thing or the statute of limitations expired on the other thing, but you're just showing this bad guy who's operating what's clearly an enterprise that over and over engages in criminal problems or criminal acts.
Then we hit the biggest rumor yet. In the 7 days before the sentence came down, federal prosecutors allegedly met with Diddy's team twice. Was this about logistics? A discussion about appeal timing? Or, as one former Southern District Attorney suggested, was the real deal being struck before the gavel even fell? The U.S. Attorney's Office hasn't commented. Diddy's lawyer told reporters it was routine. But if you're keeping score, it's easy to see the pattern. Sentences don't just happen, they're shaped in the background, influenced by power, politics, and who's willing to talk. All this plays out against the backdrop of a streaming special that's reshaping public perception. The Peacock documentary has unleashed a new wave of speculation, not just about Diddy's methods, but about who else is still at risk. The criminal enterprise phrase is getting repeated in industry circles, usually in whispers. There are questions about how many of Diddy's peers could be vulnerable if someone flips or more tapes get out. People are digging into old lawsuits, looking for patterns, scanning through who was at what party and who had which job title. It's not just idle gossip. Lawyers representing other celebrities have quietly started reviewing NDAs, bracing for the next leak. Every week brings new claims about who was in the room, who signed off, who benefited. When immunity is on the table, loyalty vanishes fast.
You know, he seemed to be taking this kind of matter seriously. Now, I will just kind of preface it and say it. I haven't seen the documentary, but it's not out of the realm, or it's not out of the norm that she even went on this documentary as well, too, because she had previously gone on another documentary and kind of talked about her client's accusations against Diddy as well, too. So I was surprised that they brought up this particular documentary. Again, I don't know the extent of what she had said, but the defense seems very annoyed in a way.
And that's the power dynamic that keeps this case burning. We all watched Diddy's sentencing, but the real play is happening off camera. Industry veterans insist these kinds of outcomes are only possible when prosecutors and defense teams work from the same script. There's the surface game, the judge, the cameras, the heartfelt apologies, but the deeper game is all about back-channel deals, old favors, and the kind of networking that keeps the rich insulated, even after the guilty verdict drops. It's not lost on anyone that political donors tied to both parties have surfaced in side stories around the investigation. There's even chatter about how a future pardon, maybe even from Donald Trump, could still upend the whole outcome depending on how the political winds blow in the next 18 months. We can't ignore how the sentencing is already reshaping the culture around celebrity justice. For every survivor who came forward, there are a dozen more still waiting to see if the system will ever work for them. Meanwhile, Diddy's story becomes another case study in loopholes, high-powered advocacy, and the fine art of spinning consequences into opportunities. He's serving time, one legal analyst joked, the way a billionaire serves a weekend at a spa. It's hard not to see the pattern. Money buys more than the best legal talent. It buys the narrative itself.
Oh, I was very friendly with him. I got along with him great. And seemed like a nice guy. I didn't know him well. But when I ran for office, he was very hostile.
He said some not so nice things about you, sir.
Yeah, and
yes.
it's hard, you know, like you, we're human beings.
Right.
And we don't like to have things cloud our judgment, right? But when you knew someone and you were fine, and then you run for office and he made some terrible...
Even as new names surface and the industry's rumor mill spins, Diddy's inner circle is pushing a comeback narrative. The apology tour is coming, complete with confessional interviews, possible rebranding, maybe even a splashy new charity project to reframe the scandal as a journey to redemption. It wouldn't be the first time. If the last decade taught us anything, it's that American celebrity is all about reinvention. But the trust deficit is wider now. People want answers, not sound bites. And as long as there are whispers about negotiated sentences and immunity swaps, the public's not likely to move on. So what's next? That depends on who you believe. The loyalists who say Diddy was targeted by a system hungry for a trophy, or the skeptics who see this as just another rich man slipping the net. The only thing we know for sure, the story is still wide open, with new leaks, new alliances, and new deals forming in real time. Maybe Diddy is the face of a new kind of justice. Or maybe he's just proof that with enough power, you never really face consequences at all. Diddy's not serving time, he's serving notice. And the message is clear. The rules don't apply if you know the right people. What do you think? Was justice served, or is this just another Hollywood cover-up? Drop your take in the comments. Until next time, keep your eyes open and your feet refreshed. This saga is far from over.